We're now ready to set up the primary drive, which presents a number of challenges. However, once installed and set up correctly, it will provide many years of reliable service.
The first challenge is presented by the chain used by Triumph. It was a 7/16 inch duplex chain that ran between the crankshaft and the Cush Drive sprocket. Triumph had never used a 7/16 inch duplex chain on a Trident before. All previous Tridents used a 3/8 inch triplex chain with great success. Unfortunately for T160 owners, 7/16 inch duplex chains had been out of production for many years now and are no longer available. So as the original primary chain reaches the end of its service life, up until recently, this has presented owners with a dilemma. To overcome this problem, I will be converting this machine to a triplex chain using a conversion kit we developed here at Classic Triumph. Let's get started. First up, the Cush Drive will be reassembled using new rubbers and the triplex conversion sprocket. An added bonus of installing this conversion kit is that the original Cush Drive sprocket had a bad habit of chewing up these rubbers because there was too large a gap between the end of the vanes and the inner diameter of the sprocket. The rubbers would be squeezed between the gap and quickly destroyed. We've reduced the gap to avoid this from happening. The workshop manual shows the tool you need in order to fit the Cush Drive rubbers. Without this tool you will really struggle, so it's a good idea to purchase or make one before you take this next step. Place the Cush Drive sprocket into the jig centrally. Place the spider into the centre of the sprocket and rotate it so it's easy to insert the first 6 rubbers. Make sure you insert the rubbers according to the diagram in the workshop manual. Insert the handle into the centre and compress the first 6 rubbers. Insert the 6 opposing rubbers. A smear of rubber grease and a small screwdriver makes this a much easier job. Make sure none of the rubbers are overlapping the vanes to avoid them being pinched under the cover plate as it is tightened into place. Fit the cover plate and insert the 6 securing bolts with lock tabs. Tighten the bolts and tap over the locking tabs. Our triplex conversion sprocket fits straight onto the T160 Cush Drive centre, allowing you to fit a T150 engine sprocket and triplex chain. Both are readily available. Go to classic-triumph.com and look for T160 Primary Drive Conversion. Before I set up the primary chain alignment, one of the steps that is unique to a T160 is fitting the gear lever shaft into the outer primary cover. We use a custom tool to assist in this process, without which it is almost impossible to install the shaft without damaging its oil seal. The shaft is fitted into its brass bush from the inside, and then the tool is slid over the spline and onto the shaft beyond the circlip groove. This allows the lip of the seal to pass over the groove without catching in it. The tool is then removed and the seal is tapped into place. Take care not to allow the shaft to slide inwards or the lip will drop into the circlip groove, making it impossible to then push the shaft back into place without damaging the seal. The seal cover, and if present, a spacer washer, is then fitted before the circlip itself is expanded and dropped into place to secure the gear lever shaft. There should be minimal end float with the circlip in place. Fit a thicker washer if there is excessive end float. We now turn our attention to the primary chain. This needs to run straight between the engine sprocket and the Cush Drive sprocket. However, setting this up correctly presents a unique challenge. The running position of the Cush Drive sprocket is determined by the thrust bearing located in the outer primary cover. It is pulled against this bearing by the clutch operating mechanism. The running position of the engine sprocket is determined by shims placed between it and the oil pump drive gear fitted to the crankshaft. You cannot check the chain is running in the correct position once it's fitted because you can't see it. However, if you do not get it right, your chain and sprockets will wear prematurely. A number of techniques for aligning the primary chain have been devised over the years. We've developed a very simple technique which works perfectly and requires only a piece of key steel, 2 spacers, 2 screws, a 3.5-inch bolt with 2 large washers, a set of feeler gauges, and an accurate measuring device such as vernier or digital calipers. If you would like to use our method, we've made available a free shim calculator at the Classic Triumph website on the Triumph Workshop Tools page. Start by placing the assembled Cush drive into the primary cover with the thrust bearing in place so it sits in its operating position. Apply light pressure with the bolt and washers to ensure it sits square. The sprocket teeth will be slightly below the gasket surface. This distance we will call A, and it can be measured using feeler gauges between the teeth and the key steel laying across the gasket surfaces. Measure the width of the Cush drive sprocket teeth. We'll call this measurement B. You also need the thickness of the gasket. We'll call this measurement C. A, B and C are added together to give the total distance from the outermost surface of the Cush drive sprocket to the gasket face of the inner primary case. Now to the engine sprocket. Making sure there are no shims behind the engine sprocket, attach the key steel using the screws and spacers as shown here. The length of the 2 spacers should be identical and approximately 1 1/8 inches. That is measurement D. Use feeler gauges to measure the gap between the sprocket and the key steel. We'll call this measurement E. D minus E gives us the distance from the outermost teeth on the engine sprocket to the same gasket surface. You should find that the engine sprocket result is less than the Cush drive result. The difference is the thickness you need to add in shims behind the engine sprocket to get the 2 sprockets exactly in alignment. If the shims available do not allow you to get exact alignment, choose the option that gets you the closest. For example, if adding a 10th thou shim puts you 4th thou over and leaving it out has you 6th thou under, then go with the 4th thou over option. If you can get within less than 5th thou, that will be fine. The sprocket teeth are narrower than the chain rollers they engage with, so it's quite possible that the chain will move from side to side slightly in operation anyway, even if the sprockets are perfectly aligned. It makes sense to fit the shim you chose and re-measure before assuming you have this correct. In the next video I'll complete the engine rebuild, so I look forward to your company again then.